Are you still expecting me to talk? All
Yeah, let's
right.
go.
Well, welcome everybody to it's our fifth episode of our podcast, mostly Star Wars. Today we'll be talking about the episode 1 and 2 of the Kenobi show, and we're discussing some things from the Star Wars celebration that we are looking forward to and enjoyed watching. I am Quentin at Crazy Quentin on Twitter. You gentlemen want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
It's a staring contest of who's gonna go first. I'm Tyler, at mostly Darth, and yeah, I'm looking forward to talking Obi-Wan, and also there's lots of exciting stuff that was announced as for celebration.
And I'm mostly Martinez, Josiah. Um, I'm super excited. We don't have enough time in the day to talk about everything Kenobi and celebration, so we're going to kind of spread this over a couple of streams, but I'm excited to jump into it.
All right. Well, where would we like to start? What are your first reactions to the Kenobi?
Yeah, I think for me, the first thing that kind of like gave me goosebumps was the recap. You know, anybody who skipped the recap, you are missing out. I
It was
mean,
great.
it was so amazing. They hit so many amazing points. It really just like took you through the prequels, and they hit all the lines that really hit you, and you kind of like, you know, you see the story, you know, culminate up to that point so well. And the other thing is the score. You know, the score and, you know, the music throughout that too, it just gets you. I got multiple goosebumps, like just, you know, for the recap there. And that was even before the intro. So yeah, I think that they did an amazing job with that. Obviously, you know, you need to watch all those movies, you know, to really understand. But even for the casual that just wanted to jump in, this is their first Star Wars ever. I think they did a really good job of kind of getting you at least, you know, some of the very bare bone basics, you know, of what is going to happen, you know, the time wise, what happened before, and where it's starting out at.
I also
Yeah, I
just
was.
I just want to mention real quick to those watching. Obviously, this is a review, so spoilers will be mentioned. So
Facts.
you've been warned. Go ahead, Q.
I was just gonna say, just watching that recap just made me want to watch those movies again. I mean, we just watched them, and I was like, "Ah, these are so good."
Mm-hmm.
The recap hit right on all the points, and
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, it was like, all right, you to be prepared for the emotions that we're gonna be fed throughout this show. They were like just getting us into that and focusing on that specific point, and got us into that emotional state that we are going to be at
Mm-hmm.
for the show.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think the next thing is, you know, immediately when it started. I mean, once again, big spoiler alert, anybody, you know, like fair warning. But immediately it takes you into like the serene and peaceful training of younglings at the temple. And, you know, at first you're like, whoa, this is amazing. And then that split second immediately reminds you of what's going to happen next. And it was just gut wrenching. It was to see, and you know, they keep on doing that to us, you know, through, you know, all these new shows. But it really is just showing the time, and you're really starting to see the emotions and the fears and the decisions that the remaining Jedi are going to take from that moment, you know, and the younglings, you know, that lived through that massacre. You know, it kind of gets you right in the feels. But like, it was just every time that I see, whether it's animated or live action, but live action, just it hit so hard, you know, to see Order 66 happen right in front of your eyes again.
I think one thing that's great about that is that you getting Order 66, it like puts you right in that moment because you've felt that moment with Revenge of the Sith and all the other things. Like, how many times have we seen Order 66 now? And but at the same time, you can be like, okay, I know where I'm at, and it feels familiar. So we're starting off with this, and this is Star Wars. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
But
mean, and any scene with Order 66 always hurts to watch, but it's always so good, and it kind of
Mm-hmm.
makes you every time you see it, it feels like every time you watch it now, we're seeing more and more of the Jedi that or potential Jedi that slipped through the cracks and could have possibly survived to have more of these stories, and that's exciting to see too. With that group of kids to see what their journey holds.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
fairly
But
certain one of them was Riva.
yeah, I mean, I could totally see that being what it is, but it's interesting to see them because every time you see a new Order 66, somebody else survives, and it's interesting. It's more interesting to see that the Emperor wasn't necessarily successful in his goal of killing all the Jedi as much as we might have thought, and also he might have thought.
Yeah.
It's also kind of irrelevant. If he killed all the Jedi, he killed everyone that he eliminated them as standing a threat to him.
Yes, that is true.
So and then that's what the Inquisitors are for the rest. It was pretty interesting. One thing I thought is you get that opening scene, or not the opening scene, but when they're looking for the Jedi on Tatooine, and they basically, do you know who we are? Yeah, you're Inquisitors. You hunt Jedi. I initially thought, well, I didn't think normal people knew who Inquisitors were, but I also understand that it worked very well for from a casual standpoint, as basically telling the casual fans that maybe don't watch the animation stuffs, be like, okay, this is who they are and this is what they do. That's what you need to know
Mm-hmm.
about them. Here, let's go.
Yeah. And I think that another thought is I was kind of initially thinking, and then later I kind of felt the same way as you about it being like a young Riva, especially since they mentioned about her and kind of like their distaste for her, the other Inquisitors. But the other thing I was thinking too is when they said, "What do we do now?" and there's like a little boy who said, "We run," and I was kind of wondering, if they were kind of saying that was the Jedi that we see that was asking Obi-Wan for help.
Yeah, I could easily see that. That's a good point.
Could be a possibility, but yeah, I mean, kind of
Because
makes a little bit more sense that maybe it was Riva. So then there later can be flashbacks, and then we can correlate what we saw at the beginning with the decisions she made later. But
I thought her character was interesting. It's not exactly what I expected, but
yeah.
because I really like that the other Inquisitors don't like her.
Mm-hmm.
They really tell her, hey, you need to learn your place. And
Yeah.
I kind of uh, there was this good point. Uh, someone I had noticed someone brought it out, and I can't. Let me think. Basically, her ambition is more of what you saw before the Rule of Two, and her betrayal, and their infighting. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason why I kind of feel like the Grand Inquisitor is almost kind of trying to look out for her. Like, no, you can't have these ambitions because realistically, if you get too powerful, you'll just be put down.
Mm-hmm.
Vader will remove you.
Yeah.
Which I actually think that uh, she's not going to survive the show. That Vader will kill her by the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could totally see that being her end.
Mm-hmm.
And obvious, I don't think the Grand Inquisitor's dead. Obviously, he shows up in Rebels, and I don't know if you saw the trailer for Jedi Survivor, and I don't know if that's really him, but it sure looks like him.
Yeah, that definitely looks like him.
But a much older. I don't know. It seemed like he was much older, didn't it?
Yeah, he looked older, but it was the same teeth.
Theory time. What if
Yeah,
it's a clone of him?
Yeah, but he's. I don't feel like he was that powerful to be somebody they would
Yeah, that's
pursue
true.
cloning.
Or maybe he's powerful enough, but he's not going to get any more powerful so they can control him.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
But anyway,
I don't know. He seemed much older. But what time? I feel like Jedi Fallen Order takes place before Rebels, right? Or is
yes,
it
it's
pretty much
about.
close in the same time period?
I think it's almost about the same time period as the Obi-Wan show is right now. It's almost like right in there. Although I think
Yeah.
the new one was supposed to take place a few years after the first one. So,
Mm-hmm.
But still, that wouldn't be enough time for the Grand Inquisitor to become that ancient old man we saw. But I mean, I don't know. He could have been disfigured by Force lightning. That happens.
That's true. Oh man. Okay, so moving on with the show. What did you guys think when we first see him, like 10 years later working at the meat factory?
that was I did like that. He's very secluded, just and I thought it was something when he didn't even want to help that guy when the guy was like, "What? That's not even a quarter pay or whatever," and he didn't even want to
Mm-hmm.
say anything, and it's like, that eats at him, at his soul,
Yeah.
because
Just feels like he's kind of broken.
well, yeah, and it just knows because that's exactly the things that he would do. That's what Jedi are there for, to help the person being taken advantage of, and when he kind of had to just keep moving on,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
it was real tough to see.
Yeah. I kept going back and forth about that, actually specifically, because I felt that way a little bit, like, he's just 100% like, I'm not helping anybody. But then at the same time, from the different dialogue that he had, especially like with Owen and stuff like that, I kind of feel like I don't necessarily know if he was like, I'm not going to help anyone, or if he was just so, back to what we've always said about him, he's just 100% loyal now to his one and only job, which is Luke. So if he's like, I'm not going to help anyone, no matter how bad it gets, that's not my job. My job is to protect Luke and eventually train him. And so if he's just like, the stalwart Jedi that's just like, okay, my job now is, not to protect the galaxy. That's not what the Jedi do. What I do is protect Luke, and then when he comes to age, train him. And so I kind of go back and forth a little bit about, if he's, 100%, like you're saying, just like, so downtrodden and broken, like, I don't want to do anything. Because there's also when he was like, he kind of is having that discussion later about Leia. But I don't know. I keep going back and forth. I don't know if he's just so stuck on protecting Luke and that being his one and only mission, or if he really does kind of feel like, a failure. It's kind of hard to say.
I actually kind of
See,
agree with that.
go ahead, Tyler.
I agree with that because I think there's a mixture of like he knows what he needs to do and needs to train Luke, but he also, if he did indeed cut himself off from the Force to an extent at least, then he's obviously maybe not ready to train him either. So but he also feels that guilt and that burden of failure, and so maybe he's like, okay, well, he has to be trained, but I'm not even sure if he believes that he is capable of doing it. And I think that's what this show is going to be about. It's going to go into how Obi-Wan goes from being that broken man at Revenge of the Sith to having that hope that in A New Hope, he is the confident guy, the wise old master, and knows what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one thing I just wasn't sure on is he's so certain that the Jedi need to hide, and he told the Jedi who was begging for his help to bury his lightsaber, forget the Force and go live a normal life. But if that's the way he feels, why does he want to train Luke? Why does he want to put Luke in that danger? If he thinks other Jedi who have already been trained and who have been helping people, if they should just go hide and be normal, why does he want that target on Luke's back?
That is, and I think that's exactly my point. I feel like he wasn't so much not wanting to protect that Jedi or help that Jedi, the runaway Jedi, as much as he thought that he would give him away. He thought that would ruin his mission, which is to protect Luke and to train Luke. So I kind of feel like in a way he was more, telling that runaway Jedi to like get out of here because I have something way more important than protecting this one runaway Jedi.
And what he said, it was almost heart-wrenching when he said, "Who are you, Obi-Wan? Used to be a great Jedi."
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oof. That one.
And he says he's not Obi-Wan. His name is Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one was, that kind of struck a chord because you think, well, Obi-Wan's one of the greatest Jedi of all time. And his fellow Jedi has to tell him, who are you?
Yeah. And I think that kind of brings us to our next, the next time that Reva comes and basically is on the edge of killing Owen and his whole family, which includes young Luke. And we see Obi-Wan hiding basically. And that is what kind of then put me to the other side and thinking like, okay, maybe I'm wrong about this because so if you think like, okay, his whole job is to protect Luke and then to eventually train him, right? If that's the case, for one, if Reva kills Owen, that's a big deal for Luke. Like at the age that he's at, 10 years old by now, he has a relationship with him. So that would have, possibly been a similar situation to, like Anakin growing up now without a father figure. Luke's going to now grow up without a father figure. So that alone, but then she specifically said that she would kill his whole family. Luke at that time wouldn't be able to defend himself, and, obviously his aunt's not going to be able to protect him either. So I thought that was a really interesting scene. And maybe it was like showing, because like if you look at Obi-Wan's face during that whole scene, I feel like he's very pensive and he's thinking, like I feel like at that moment he's like, what is the right thing to do? Is now the time to finally, stand up to these guys, or is it not the right time? Do I let them kill Owen and then I rush to Luke? Like I felt like maybe that was also the beginnings of him realizing that, he can't just sit in the shadows, and wait for Luke. He has to actively be doing things to ensure his safety, which obviously makes for way better stories for us instead of him being in the mountains, for almost 20 years doing absolutely nothing except trying to talk to his old master. Like I think obviously that makes it way more exciting for us, but I do feel like, he had a mix of fear, maybe not knowing if he was even, skilled enough to fight these Inquisitors, or even if it was,
he didn't have his
if it was the right
time.
He didn't have his lightsaber. So, that, and then as we'll see later, him cutting himself off from the Force, maybe he wasn't even able to muster up enough, Force power to do whatever he needed to do at that moment either. So yeah, yes, that was definitely an interesting scene.
And I liked when they have that conversation at the end, and he says, "Thank you, Owen," and Owen's like, "I didn't do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not protecting you here either." Owen
Mm-hmm.
still knows he's not protecting Obi-Wan. He's trying to protect Luke, no different. And I liked how you see that relationship where Owen was basically, or has adopted Luke as saying he is my son, pretty much. That's his family, and that's who he has to protect. There is no
Mm-hmm.
issues, and kind of like you said, Anakin growing up without a father figure, really, or Obi-Wan being the father figure, to the most part, but
Mm-hmm.
also then you have Luke, who is going to have Owen as his father figure, and he has that throughout his life, obviously, until A New Hope. Spoilers. But it was just a good conversation. I really hope we get to see a little bit more of Owen, because I think Joel Egerton is a real good actor, especially as Owen, and
Mm-hmm.
it really plays. And I also loved Obi's cave. If you have to live in a cave, that's a pretty awesome cave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the Jawa. If you're gonna
Yeah.
you're gonna take my parts and sew them back to me, you could at least clean him first. Cleaning cost
Yeah.
extra.
That was awesome. I love that.
That was fantastic. So, okay, let's get to the next part. Let's talk Leia.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first off, I was gonna say when you first see Alderaan, isn't that just a beautiful planet?
Oh,
It's the
man.
best looking planet
saw
in
those
all
shots?
Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's close between that one and Naboo.
Yeah.
Obviously, knowing the fate live on Naboo, but I do think Alderaan is just a beautiful setting, and man, they made it look so good.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to mention too. You just reminded me, once again, going back to what we, broken record of foreshadowing, but I love how they made the comparisons of, both Anakin and Padme, and then Luke and Leia. It was so great. They basically grew up in similar environments. We see Padme from a young age, obviously being in a wealthy family, and then, obviously, becoming queen. So she's used to kind of like that pampering from a young age. And then obviously, like you just brought out, both beautiful planets. And then on the other hand, now we have Anakin and Luke, who grow up dirt poor, having to work at a young age. Maybe Luke isn't as bad as Anakin, like a slave, but I mean, on a small farm for, his aunt and uncle, he was working at a very young age. So there's similarities there too.
It's
so
like
both
poetry. It rhymes.
it totally is. And like you can, and what I love about it is because, we all love Padme, and she is what she is, despite being pampered all of her life. She's like the gruff and tough, royalty, and like we love that about her. And I feel like it's, Leia gets that, from her mom. She has the ability to be like prim and proper growing up, like in royalty, but she chooses to be like the rough and gruff, like,
Yeah,
basically
she's willing to get down and dirty with the people. She's not above.
Yeah.
And it was just pointed out when she was talking to the droid, and what her cousin goes, "You don't need to have manners when you talk to a lower life form."
Mm-hmm.
And her sass was played perfectly to Leia too. That was written perfectly to Leia, and she's like, "Well, then I guess I don't need manners when I talk to you." That was awesome.
Yeah, that was perfect. And I obviously we're gonna get probably a little bit more of young Luke, upcoming. But so far, like what they've done with Leia is amazing, and it keeps on giving me flashbacks of Padme, which is so awesome because if you just think of DNA, in the way that it works, it's so awesome that Padme's daughter is just like her, and
Well, if you
in
think
a
about
lot
it,
of go
like
ahead.
you're talking about how they're like how Padme's daughter is like her.
Hmm.
Well, that love of droids that comes from Anakin. You can see that
Yeah.
in her and her compassion, and she's got her little droid that follows her around, and she's compassionate and kind to other droids. That's
Hmm.
You could totally see that from Anakin.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Lola. No, as
Lola.
soon as
The
as soon
little,
as as soon as we saw Lola, like the little ladybug droid or whatever it is, I
mm-hmm.
was like, that's selling $1 million.
Right?
The little drone.
Oh, that
Uh-huh.
was that was so good, and just the way her attitude, and even when she's like 10 and she's still sassing off to the people who captured her,
Yeah.
and it, it's like written so perfectly because Leia is and Carrie Fisher and in the original trilogy was all sass. Like she tells Grand Moff Tarkin that she could smell his foul stench when she was brought on board. This guy's about to execute you, and you're telling him
Uh-huh.
he stinks.
Uh-huh.
Like it was
Mm-hmm.
so played so well, and
Mm-hmm.
she's like, well, my dad's gonna send an army,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I can think of no better reason for Obi-Wan to have left his mission to protect Luke than for him to protect Leia.
Yes.
And Bail to basically say, "Come on, Obi-Wan, what are you doing? She's just as important as he is." Like
Mm-hmm.
she has the same DNA, and Obi-Wan, and he's explaining, you're also the only one that actually knows who she is,
Yeah.
her importance. And I
Mm-hmm.
love the fact that the Reva would kidnap a little girl simply because she knew that Obi-Wan had a relationship and was friends with Bail Organa. She doesn't know
Mm-hmm.
anything else at all, but she
Yeah.
just knows that Obi-Wan once was friends with Bail Organa. So she's just gonna try to capture his kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that thought. Imagine how much more favor she'd have with Vader if she brought Vader his daughter over
Oh
Obi-Wan.
man. Uh-huh.
But they had no idea. She was just doing it to get to Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw somebody mention somewhere online that they didn't like that fact that they met each other or saw each other because then later when she sends the message to Obi-Wan Kenobi, she acts like she never met him before. And I was like, I think it could kind of go play into two ways. But to me, the way that makes the most sense is he never said he was Obi-Wan Kenobi. He said his name was Ben.
Okay, but I'll
Yeah.
to that point here. Um, One, she played on his "you served my father" in the Clone Wars, and and maybe she knows that he would do a favor for her father. One, and two, I've seen kind of that argument as well. But there's a line she says when Luke opens the cell and he's like, "I'm here with Ben Kenobi." She's like, "Ben Kenobi, where is he?"
Yes,
And they run off.
exactly. That is my very next point. So I was like, that was my second, my thing about it is, just because of the way that message is formatted, it doesn't necessarily mean they've never met before,
Yeah,
you know. And so I was like, I think sometimes people are just digging for anything, that they can have an issue with. And if anything, like we've seen with throughout the Clone Wars and Rebels, I think after seeing this, A New Hope is going to be better because now there's more emotion to it. There's something behind it. There's a story behind this moment because I think we all feel for Luke in the moment, eventually when like Obi-Wan and Vader have their final duel, right? We all kind of think of Luke and the emotion he's going through. But if you think of it the other way, that, Leia has known him even longer, really, than Luke has. So Luke, Leia, she owes her life to him from the age of a little girl. Then it kind of almost in a way makes that even more meaningful for her to see that happen as well.
Yeah. And I like how he didn't want to tell her who he was.
Yeah.
And was just trying to hide. Because, I mean, even the scene where he kind of starts to reveal and he tells him his name's Ben Kenobi. And yeah, when he reveals that, and then nice. Uh-oh.
All right. Oh man, Grogu messed up your feed.
Yeah. Oh, it's back.
You pulled the wrong wire.
So yeah, but and then the way her sass is as well, and she's the way she's talking, and it reminds Obi-Wan, and I was thinking that too. I'm like, man, she just sounds exactly like Padme, and and he goes, well, you just remind me of something. And he was like, a friend of mine. Was she a Jedi? And I when she asked that question, I thought, well, she might as well have been. She was about as Jedi as you can get without having Force powers. Because the way she acted and treated people was exactly how the Jedi should be acting. And so I was almost like, well, kinda. And that's what I thought when that moment, and that moment was so good.
Yeah, I love that. That definitely hit you in the feels. And I think another one is I just love that we were so impressed seeing her, and that little girl is just such a great actor too. But we were so impressed with her and the way that she was acting. Is so mature for her age. And
yeah, he says, how old are you?
Yeah, and I love that. And that was like one of the lines that I loved, and I thought it was so great, But I've seen a lot of hate on that too. I don't know if you guys have, but I've seen a lot of people saying like he obviously knows how old he is, and I was like, you've never heard of a rhetorical question?
Yeah,
right.
He wasn't really
to a
asking
kid like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He was totally saying like, the way you're acting is older, than you appear, or that you really are. And so I was like, man, you guys are just trying to find anything. Like, man, this is such a, these are such amazing episodes, and they're just trying to find any little thing. And I was like, don't be trying to direct no hate to this little girl who just like did an amazing performance.
I think Carrie Fisher would be proud of that little girl. Yeah, it was. She almost, I don't want to say stole the show, but and if anyone could steal the show, she just fits. She fits as part of an Obi-Wan story.
Yeah.
And that relation, and it almost just furthers the relationship with him and Anakin, and him and Padme, and it just furthers their relationships because, Anakin screwed up, and because Anakin screwed up, Padme's dead, and here's Obi-Wan taking care of their kids.
Yeah.
Being the true friend, really.
Yeah.
And so
that just reminded me too. We haven't even talked about it yet, but what you guys think about Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers playing the kidnapper?
Well, they were one thing I saw people pointing out was like the little chasing her through the woods was a little goofy, and even if it was,
Yeah.
it doesn't stop me from enjoying it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. I feel like, there was like some callbacks to, even though it was a live action, kind of just reminds me a little bit of even like Rebels. There's moments in there that are kind of silly. You can kind of feel like they're definitely directed, towards a younger audience. And I feel like they, they rode the line in this show so well. Everybody who, is an adult, you gotta love this. Anybody who even somewhat enjoys Star Wars, it was so amazing. But then I love the fact that, like my son watched it and like enjoyed it. And there was moments where things that he was watching was funny to him, and I think they just did an excellent job with like, they were giving something to a wide range of audience. And even the moments that were a little silly, like, them running into a tree branch or whatever, like these are, maybe assassins, but definitely kind of bounty hunters, whatever. They probably wouldn't you wouldn't expect them to be like that silly or goofy,
I
but you can also put it to they couldn't injure her. This was definitely like a
mm-hmm.
grab and hold, not like a assassination attempt.
Well, too,
So
because
that
if
could play a little bit.
well the two Reva's gonna get in big trouble if she gets caught kidnapping a senator's daughter.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like kind of to your point that if people are nitpicking at the stuff of the running through the woods and stuff, if if that's what you took away after watching the show, then maybe you just like lightsaber fights and don't really like the story of and the emotional hits that Star Wars has always played at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I just definitely don't nitpick at this because it was just I was enjoyed it. I mean, a lot of it left me. I was it was kind of hard to see because it was blurry because I was getting a little teary eyed at certain points, and
Mm-hmm.
so it was fun. It
Mm-hmm.
was I liked the little Easter eggs like the clone trooper there begging for
Yeah.
money, and he was a 501st trooper too. I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
Yeah, it appeared
Yeah,
based
yeah,
on
he
the
was.
painting.
yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
that was
That was
just
really heart wrenching. That
Yeah.
trooper begging
Mm-hmm.
for a hot meal, basically,
Yeah.
and then Obi-Wan like being almost seemed like he was afraid when he first stumbled across him, and then
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan knowing that he served alongside these brothers for many years and many battles, and it's
Yeah.
I don't know if at this point he knows that it was a chip in their brain, but he
Mm-hmm.
definitely you could see he had compassion for him.
and that trooper could have had PTSD. He could have been there at the temple. We don't really know what he was. Obi-Wan could have killed some of his friends.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan might have more recognize him than the trooper would necessarily recognize Obi-Wan just because the Force kind of lets you identify, just like we talked about a couple weeks ago, that Yoda says that they're individuals in the Force. So uh
Mm-hmm.
so that was really good, and I like the Undercity there, that
Yeah.
and the spice. And
Mm-hmm.
him doing his that they're Breaking Bad Easter eggs, and
Mm-hmm. I thought that yeah. Now that you bring that up, I thought that was another interesting point, kind of to Quentin's initial thoughts, kind of about Obi-Wan, that we saw him in the past basically help a drug dealer change their life and make the right choices,
mm-hmm.
and in this situation, he did nothing.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like one of those things that they put it in there for a reason, and I think it was to just show where he is at this moment. He's not actively trying to help anyone.
He's not willing to do anything that could potentially show himself as a Jedi.
Yeah.
And
there's an interesting line. You're talking about the spice and the drug dealer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who that is?
Oh, I think I saw somebody say something about it, but no, who was it?
That actress that gave him the spice, that's Ewan McGregor's real daughter.
Oh, is it? Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, and she has that line where she goes, "I was somebody's daughter too," right to his face.
I love that. That is amazing.
That's great.
Oh man, that must have been hard for him to hear.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's awesome.
So
I think we're to now the escape. Really, we're to the escape through the underbelly of the city, and where we finally get to see Obi-Wan make the decision to use the Force after being closed off for probably almost 10 years.
Yeah, and that was I didn't even think about that. I assumed he still had the Force, or he didn't cut it off. And this kind of goes back to a point actually Connie had mentioned too, that he buried his lightsaber in the sand. And she's like, well, I don't think he's 100% cut off to it, because she's like, well, how would he even find it? Because does it still call to him? Mm-hmm. Because we've seen in Clone Wars and stuff that they're connected to their crystal, and their crystal can call has some sort of connection to the Jedi, and so that's where he could be able to find it, is if he still has that connection to his lightsaber and his crystal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a part in the Brotherhood book where he hides his lightsaber, and then he checks to see if it's still there later on. But he can feel it from a good distance away. He can connect to it, and he knows where it's at.
Yeah, and I think like what you had brought out, we've kind of seen that, over the years, the more that we kind of learn about the crystals, that, like you said, they do call, to the person that they eventually become their possession of, because it's also in the Ahsoka book. Like you see a little bit of that too, so from a long distance, she was able to find them as well. But I think another kind of point, and I could be wrong about this, I would have to look at that specific, take by take. But when he finally finds them, it appears that he had been digging for a while. There's like a full line of digging. So it wasn't like he went exactly to it. He was digging in that area for quite a long time. And so maybe he could feel it. But once again, he was so closed off that it wasn't as easy as maybe it would have been in the past for him.
Have we ever thought of, because I've thought of this, maybe it's not necessarily just that he cut himself off from the Force, but the Force is like a muscle. And if you don't use it, it gets weaker. Mm-hmm. And like Connie brought out in the chat there, that, you can see that in the amount of effort it took him to stop Leia from hitting the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like, because and I think you can kind of see that as just a point to The Last Jedi with Luke, and when he had cut himself off from the Force for a long time, but then he tries this super powerful move, and that's what exhausts him.
Yeah, that's true.
And so you have here Obi-Wan, and I won't want to necessarily say he cut himself off completely, but that he definitely hasn't used the Force, because anytime you use the Force, you can draw attention to yourself. Other people can feel you. He can feel his presence. And so, he just doesn't want to give himself away. His mission is to stay hidden.
I think the other thing is, the legend that Anakin would bring balance to the Force. That really is a thing. Like having the balance, in both sides, really, they want that. They want to be able to use the Force to, for their own means, whether it's for good or for evil. But either way, I feel like we also saw that like in Revenge of the Sith, like really through all the prequels, but we really see it in Revenge of the Sith or whatever uh, when Palpatine Sidious says to hit the temple to catch them off balance.
Mm-hmm.
So he wants them to hit those and kill as many Jedi as possible to throw all the Jedi off. And you see Yoda, one of the wisest and, maybe, most knowledgeable of how the Force works and attuned to the Force. He falls to the ground.
Yeah,
So
he dropped his cane.
Yeah,
when that all happens.
Yeah, and so like it basically it affected him to that point. And so I kind of feel like in a way over the last 10 years all of the Jedi either in hiding or getting killed or trying to close themselves off in hiding or whatever, obviously that's going to affect his use of the Force as well, his connection to the Force. When you reach out to feel the Force and all you feel is darkness.
Yeah,
that could also be another thing.
That's another point I was going to say is that because the galaxy is covered in the dark side by this point, that any light would probably shine brighter.
Mm-hmm.
And so doing any act of like that would definitely bring attention to yourself.
Yeah.
And so, but then he saves her, and that's when she decides to trust him. I thought it was interesting that she just wouldn't trust him, and it's almost credit. It is credit to Leia of that she wouldn't just trust him because he says he's a Jedi. And so I thought that was interesting. But then later on, she tells him to trust the what was his name?
Haja Estri.
Yeah, Haja. She tells him to trust him.
That guy was so good. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scamming people, being a fake Jedi.
That was great. But she also wouldn't trust Obi-Wan, but then is willing to tell Obi-Wan to trust him.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes to Leia's credit of just how well she knows and can see people and can read people.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't expect for him to be any more than just the guy faking for credits, and I didn't expect him to actually be good.
Mm-hmm.
And even to the point where he tried to stand up to the third sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that takes a lot of courage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you get to the point where we had talked about earlier, where Leia is saying all those smart things, and Obi-Wan goes, "Well, you remind me of someone."
Oh, that was such a sad moment.
Yeah, because you can they almost like pause on it, and you can kind of see Obi-Wan's face and him just like reliving those moments. I don't.
Yeah.
They didn't show it.
He was sad.
Yeah, they didn't show it, but I almost can picture him trying to picture the happy moments, kind of like they showed of his PTSD earlier, of all the stuff that went wrong with Anakin. But I can almost see him picturing all the good moments with Padme and Anakin, and he's just trying to reflect on that. But then you get to the point right there where he says that to her, and only a couple minutes later when they escape, that Reva tells him that Vader is alive. And he's like, just thinking about Padme and Leia asks him, "Who's that?" And I was just like, "That's your dad." That's just the chilling moment of him realizing that the goodness that was Padme is gone, but the evil that is Anakin still lives.
Yeah. And I was thinking too in that moment that in the recap, once again, do not skip that recap. But in the recap, it specifically shows Padme saying that there's still good in him, that she can feel that there's still good in him. And so I think once again, Obi-Wan didn't go there to kill Anakin. That was never his intention in Revenge of the Sith. He didn't want to do that. You know, and in a way, he kind of, well, we obviously know he survived, but he still didn't do it. He could have, before he, you know, lit on fire and stuff, he could have finished.
Yeah, he could have just force pushed him into the lava.
He could have verified that he was dead. And so I feel like in a way, you know, he still, like he told Yoda, he's like, I cannot do that. And he was telling the truth. He didn't. He didn't have the heart to actually finish the job. And so I feel like in that moment, there was so many emotions. It wasn't just like fear or shock, but maybe possibly there's still hope, you know, in you know, the last words that Padme said after he's with, you know, her cute little daughter who's just like her, you know, and so scrappy and everything.
Yeah.
And so he's remembering all those moments. And then, you know, he had to have remembered that, you know, that she said there's still good in him and now he's alive. So there's still a chance, you know. And then if you want to flash back to when Owen said, you were a failure the way that you trained Anakin, you know. And so I think kind of tying all that together, you know, I think all those emotions kind of flash through like, hey, maybe there is still a chance. Maybe it's not the end of the story. And I think another kind of interesting thing is, you know, once again, we kind of talked about it, but maybe this was a way of telling people who, you know, don't know all, you know, don't know, haven't watched everything, don't know the whole story. But she specifically said, you know, that Vader's still alive, Anakin Skywalker is still alive, right? So she said both names, possibly to kind of throw him off, get in his head. Possibly they wrote it in there so if people didn't really know that connection, that they would understand what the kind of connection is there. But what I took away from it and thought was very interesting is the fact that she knows that.
Yes.
That was kind of a critique I had with this, because that's like the one critique I had of this entire show. Almost no one knew that Vader was Anakin. Tarkin didn't even know, and he worked with him almost as close as anybody else. Yeah. It was a very well kept secret. So why does the third sister, who is regarded as lower than all the other Inquisitors, know that information?
I actually have. I was this just popped into my head, but I have a good idea for that. One, yeah, I thought that was very interesting because she knows that Anakin is Vader. But I go back to the opening scene of the show. If that is her, if she's one of those students, they're being, you know, running, she could have easily seen Anakin killing the Jedi, killing the rest of the Jedi. She could also potentially have seen that exact thing that we saw in the recording of Palpatine or Sidious saying, "You've done well, Lord Vader." She could have been hiding in the corner and just no one saw her. And then maybe she was captured later and then made into becoming an Inquisitor.
Yeah, and I think another thing too is, and I'm going to jump a little bit to the Thrawn books, but the fact that Thrawn knew that connection and he was trying to basically coax, or, you know, he really wanted Vader to say, yes, I am Anakin, you know, because they had the relationship before and after, right? But like Vader was to the point of being angry, to the point of like wanting to kill Thrawn for even mentioning his name. This goes back to what, I can't remember which one of you mentioned it, but about Vader killing her. Vader does not want to hear the name Anakin. He does not want to hear anyone utter the word Anakin Skywalker, you know? And so for her to be going around and using that name is very, very dangerous.
That's why I think she won't last the series, and I definitely don't think that Obi-Wan's gonna kill her. I don't think he'll kill her. I think Vader's gonna kill her.
Well, yeah, Obi-Wan's too good to kill anybody. He's too much of a Jedi for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So I think that really brings us now to the Grand Inquisitor. Is he dead or not?
There's no way. I don't see them retconning Rebels, especially because it's Dave Filoni,
Mm-hmm.
and we've seen dark side people, die all the time, or not die, but not fatally die. They, you know, Darth Maul was cut in half, thrown down an
Yes.
elevator, and thrown into a garbage pit, and still survived on his anger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't see any way that they retcon it in any way. I'm kind of curious about that because I did not expect that. That one was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely a curveball for fans who who have seen more of the shows and stuff. So I don't know. I don't know. Either he's dead, either he's not dead, or he's actually a different character than what we see in Rebels. Because I don't see him retconning that either.
Yeah, I think that was the same thought. Like, I was watching this with my little sister-in-law, and we both like just looked like right at each other, and we're like, no way. Because I mean, obviously, you got to bring some like surprises, right? In a story, like you don't want to know exactly what's going to happen word for word, play for play ever, But I was like that just it takes away so much, and it's like you said, I mean, Rebels would basically be non-canon anymore, and they're doing tons of live action also based on Rebels, so it'd be weird to like pick and choose. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think the most realistic thing to me is that he survives, and I think that would make for a more interesting next 4 episodes,
Or yeah, you
because
could see him killing Riva.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because, and then, maybe that also be kind of like a shock, maybe not to us because we, like if he does survive, which I feel like he is, maybe not to us, it's going to be a shock, but it'll be a shock to Riva's character in the show and maybe
Mm-hmm.
some other people who don't, know the whole story. But I do I wonder how it's going to pick up from here, because basically he's lying, dead or dying on the ground, and she's still there. So somehow, if he does survive, it does Vader come and be like, what the hell, or, like, does, the rest of the Inquisitors come and stop her, grab her, you know, from finishing the job if he's not dead, or yeah, that's definitely an interesting one.
So Seth brings out an interesting point in the chat. He says her hatred for Obi-Wan comes from abandonment because she talks about what she's owed. Because Obi-Wan was on Utapau when Order 66 happened, so he wasn't there to protect them. So it feels like she's owed his life for the ones, probably for her master and all the stuff that happened. So that I can totally see that, or maybe simply for the fact that they know that Obi-Wan survived Order 66, and
Mm-hmm.
pretty much he's the only known one that was a Jedi Master on the Council, and that they is to blame for everything that happened more so than the rest of the Jedi. The Council is the ones who decided what they were. They were decided that they were going to be generals in an army for the Republic. They're the ones that decided that, and so they are the ones that are ultimately responsible for what happens to the Jedi.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, for sure.
it kind of goes to the point in like Luke brings out in the Last Jedi, at the height of the Jedi at the height of their powers allowed the creation of Darth Vader and allowed Darth Sidious to take control and everything. And so maybe she kind of just has that deep-seated hatred for those moments, you know, for what happened. They are responsible, really, and Obi-Wan especially, and Yoda, and anyone left from the council.
Yeah, and I totally agree with what Seth was bringing out about the abandonment, because that definitely happened to her in her life. But this also another spoiler if you wanted to watch the celebration and you didn't watch it. But when they spoke to Riva, her character, and they asked, "What does she want? What does she want in life? What is her goals?" And she said that Riva's character wants to please. She specifically said that
She's
is what
trying to
her
gain.
desire is
She's trying to gain
to
favor
please.
with Vader.
hmm And she said she wants to please in ways that may surprise you. And so that was interesting too, as a kind of a tag along to that statement. So now we know if she was raised as a Jedi. So now this could be start to be a little bit more interesting, because so she specifically, or they specifically imply that she wants to catch Obi-Wan basically to please Vader, to get favor with Vader. So we know that, and from the first two episodes, immediately that's clear. So the fact that, and I'm sorry, I'm spacing what her name is, the actress, um, but anyways, okay, but yes, Moses Ingram. So then she follows it up with saying she wants to please in ways that may surprise you. So now I'm kind of thinking, once again, it is a little bit of a spoiler now seeing the first two episodes, but maybe we're not 100% right, and that's all that she's trying to do. She may not only specifically be trying to gain favor with Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm. I'm also have a kind of a question. Like, are they know that Vader's a Sith Lord?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder. I don't know. Maybe it's in the comics or something that I haven't read. But do the Inquisitors know that Vader is the apprentice, or do they think that maybe they're having this little infighting because one of them wants to be his apprentice?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure they know. I'm pretty sure it's in one of the earlier Vader comics that I've read that Palpatine is the one who sets up the Inquisitors, and
Yeah,
he just puts Vader in charge of them.
but does he actually deal with them? Do they, or is he
Yeah.
just in the background telling Vader what to do?
Yeah, I
I
kind
mean,
of feel like that is more realistic, like, because especially a character like Riva, and once again, this could be the surprise, but I feel like she is going to want to please the top of the top. She's not going to want to mess with any middlings. And so you think about it, because how does she treat the Grand Inquisitor? She could care less, right? She doesn't care if he likes her or doesn't like her. She doesn't care if he thinks that she's, a great inquisitor or not. And that's basically like her boss, you know? And so she's already jumping him. So I kind of feel like, in a way, that they think that Vader is the top of the food chain when it comes to this. I could be wrong, but I kind of feel like that's the Inquisitors kind of view Vader as the boss, not Sidious.
And
I mean, Vader is in charge of them, but I feel like you'd have to know that Vader obviously answers to somebody, right? Everybody answers to the Emperor, which includes Vader.
but
As
they
a
don't
Sith,
know why.
yeah, but as a Sith, why would you think that this Sith listens to this old man if he's not a Sith, right? Like that's the Sith's whole goal is to rule. So obviously, the one who Vader listens to has to be a Sith as well, right? I mean, that's just my thinking on the subject.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah,
But-
that could
Because why else would Vader let somebody else be the leader of the Empire if Vader wasn't if he wasn't, close to or more powerful than Vader?
yeah,
You think Vader would
that's
just take
interesting
over?
because I think the other interesting thing like to think about is if we want to talk about Plagueis,
Yep. That's where I was thinking too.
Palpatine was his mouthpiece.
Yep.
So he wasn't in charge. And so if Vader's the same way, he's like, Palpatine is the ruler of the Empire. We need somebody to keep everybody together so there's no chaos. He could possibly swing that towards the Inquisitors. Like, I am the real person in power and I could overthrow him at any moment if I feel like it.
And so I actually like Seth points. I was just thinking about this, that Vader could be acting like he's trying to find an apprentice as well. Because, I mean, that's what all, if you've read the Darth Bane books, that's what he tried to do. Or what was Darth Bane's apprentice? What was her name? I cannot remember.
Zaina or Zana.
Zaina, something like that. Yeah. And she went and looked for a student to be her apprentice before she overthrew Bane. And so maybe that could be what Vader's doing. And it's the plot of The Force Unleashed. And so
yeah, sorry, I was just busting up about what Michael just said.
Yeah, I saw that too. You want to know who noticed that first? My mom. She's texting us. Han is in Star Wars. Just laughing.
Oh man.
But yeah, I could totally see him setting up to basically auditions for an apprentice.
And maybe he's okay with all the infighting too. Maybe he's kind of thinking like, all right, let's see who impresses me the most, who is able to, take charge, take lead. And so maybe in a way he kind of enjoys seeing them fight amongst themselves of who's the most powerful, who's the greatest.
And that infighting is what destroyed the Jedi or destroyed the Sith in Darth Bane's days. That's why he created the Rule of Two. You had something you wanted to add, Kua?
Yeah, so I just looked it up, and it's it's on Wikipedia, so I don't know how perfectly accurate it is, but it's talking about the Inquisitors. It says, fearing the threat the surviving Jedi posed to his rule, Emperor Palpatine created Inquisitors to track down and corrupt or eliminate the last remaining Jedi. Said Inquisitors were former Jedi that had fallen to the dark side and pledged themselves to Palpatine. And then later on, it says that Darth Vader soon discovered the program and at that point was put in charge by Palpatine. So the Inquisitors had to pledge themselves to Palpatine. So obviously they would have known that there was somebody above Vader.
But did they? I don't know if you read any further.
But they are not
Palpatine?
Sith.
Did they pledge themselves to Palpatine or to Darth Sidious?
It says Palpatine.
So that is kind of goes along with what we were thinking.
Power at that point?
Yeah, possibly, but like I think that kind of goes what we were thinking. Yeah, that's true. And
yeah,
so
but he was trying to hide it then. Now he's the Emperor. Everyone should fear his power.
Yeah, he's the Emperor, but I kind of feel like once again that's like political. And so if they're, similar to like the Jedi, to the Republic, they weren't necessarily like, oh yeah, like what he says goes. They're more just like, we're protecting the Empire. We're doing this for the Empire. But then if Vader is the one that's out there with them chopping people up, like I think they're going to be a little more afraid of him than an old man in a chair.
So,
but yeah, hard to say.
I really liked the fact that they dropped 2 episodes
Mm-hmm.
because that was the perfect stopping point.
Yeah.
And it also was like, oh, I want more, but it's also like, okay, it's great. It's kind of great that I have to wait a little bit because it's too perfect.
Yeah. And then I love the fact that we don't have to wait a week. I think that's what like saved me.
Yeah, it's like midnight tomorrow night.
Oh man.
I can't wait. It's this show is so great, and I can't wait to get to the rest of it
Mm-hmm.
and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
That and it was just chilling when he realizes he's alive, and then he sees him, or then it shows him in the back to tank.
Yeah.
I almost picture Vader like always in a back to tank, unless he's killing people in the
Yeah.
suit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like that was like a moment where, since they were so connected for so long, and if Obi-Wan was like trying to conceal himself slash was slowly losing his connection to the Force in that moment where he had to save Leia's life, and then in the heightened moment of getting her to the ship and everything like that, I kind of wonder if they were, in a sense, kind of like showing the fact that at that moment they both felt it. It wasn't that he just said it, but they both felt that they were alive.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, well, I loved the show. I thought everything there was. I can't really complain too much. There's nothing that I would nitpick at, because the whole time I loved it. I was having fun. I was emotional with where they were wanting to send us. Where it was pretty good. And so, yeah, I loved it, pretty much everything. I love seeing Alderaan. That place is so great, so beautiful. Uh, yeah, I think that's a good point to. Any last things you guys want to say about the show, and then we can talk about Celebration.
I just thought it was, I liked how at the end of every shift at the meat factory he would cut off a slice and sneak it away and give it to his mount, whatever. I can't remember what the
EOP.
name of that. Okay, yeah, that's probably right. I'm not going to question you on that one. I just thought that
I
was
looked it up
interesting,
earlier
just
because I was going to bring that out.
showing his compassion.
Yes. Yeah, I like that you brought that out, because another point that I was kind of thinking about is the fact that when they mentioned like how do you like catch a Jedi or something, or how do you find one or whatever, like with patience, because they can't help it. They can't help but help people, right? And I feel like that was a really good moment, because even though we see him going out of his way to not help people, you see like the compassion and the genuineness that he has, for this animal, right? And I feel like almost in a way he has something he's taking care of, so he feels good that he is actually helping something. He's helping someone, right? And so I think that was like a really good moment that they brought that out, because it is true, and we see this throughout all of the Star Wars, movies and shows, that a Jedi cannot help but help. They may, they may get lost along the way, but eventually they find redemption, because that is who they are.
It just shows.
Yeah, and I want to bring out. I was gonna say, bring out what Seth said in the chat about Obi-Wan calling out to Qui-Gon and not being able to get a response back. Makes me wonder if it's still a technique that he's trying to learn from Yoda, or maybe there's only certain times when they can. If it's maybe it's difficult for Qui-Gon to communicate back as well. But I really hope that we do see that come in later episodes for them to have that conversation.
I think it's kind of to the point of it probably maybe has somewhat to do with his own connection to the Force currently.
Yep.
And that now that he's starting to feel that, we might see that hopefully in later episodes.
Yeah, I think the exact same thing. When I was thinking about that whole thing, I don't think it's obviously not Qui-Gon, because he's already mastered that skill by now. So I feel like it was definitely him, and his connection to the Force was so weak, whether it was self-imposed or not. It was so weak that even if he wanted to, like in the moments, like Seth just brought out right now, and he said, if there's any time I need your guys, it's now, or whatever. Just because he wants it, like, doesn't mean that he's gonna get it, because like he was so disconnected from the Force, like, once again, whether it's him or someone else. So yeah, I think he said nope, it's gonna get a lot worse, and I feel the same. I feel like it is. They're gonna draw us along, with excitement and anticipation, and there's gonna be a point where he's really going to need him, whether it's from discouragement or in like a specific battle or decision that he needs to make. And I can't wait for that, and I'm dying to see that.
Yeah, like Seth just mentioned, Qui-Gon is possibly choosing not to answer because he's still teaching Obi-Wan a lesson.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan is going to need to find himself and find his connection to the Force before he's able to make that communication.
Yeah, and then that's the other thing too. If they haven't really said, but if he's ever been able to commune with him, and I obviously feel like it would be more epic if he never has been able to, but if they are going to commune for the first time, that the conversation is going to have to be about Anakin. It can't not be, like that was his dying wish, that he train Anakin, and then he saw all this happen. So like I'm so excited to see like what they come up with in the script of that communication, and I really hope it's not just like some small words of advice. I hope they're able to. I mean, we know Obi-Wan and his emotions and stuff like that, and I can already see it. He's like, I failed. The one thing you asked me to do, I failed. And then obviously we know Qui-Gon, and he's obviously going to console him. But yeah, that's going to be so good.
Yeah, I'd love to see like a 20 or 30-minute conversation.
Oh yeah, like a whole episode. Yes.
Oh man, I don't think you're gonna get that much, but yeah, exactly, Seth. Yeah, I kind of brought that out earlier. Yeah, he's still just Yoda, still teaching Luke. Yep. You never stop being a teacher. You also, it doesn't matter how old you get, you never stop learning.
Yeah.
All right, so we want to kind of switch gears here and talk about some of the stuff at Celebration.
Yeah.
I kind of want to mention one thing before. It wasn't at Celebration or anything, but it just made me think of how great Leia was in that episode. And then you see Leia when she's older in Rebels, right? So how cool would it be if we got a young Leia as an Imperial senator, with Bail Organa mentoring her still, and that would be an awesome show, I think, to see that part of the universe.
Oh yeah, that would be.
Oh no, politics that ruins Star Wars. No one wants to hear about trade talks and taxation.
No, but I do, because she was also a humanitarian helping people at that time. So it was more than just being a senator, which is what a lot of what Padme did too. Is a lot of that connection there as well. So I would like to see a young Padme or a young Leia show like that. That would be cool.
Yeah, and this is like a want of mine that I don't feel would ever happen, but it would just be so amazing. But also during this time, Ahsoka was working with Bail Organa and helping out,
Fulcrum.
as Fulcrum. So that's
Mhm.
that's also another interesting connection, because Ahsoka show is coming out. And so that would obviously be an amazing tease to see Rosario Dawson somehow show up in this timeline, because it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think there's a chance that she shows up in the show?
Maybe at the end as a teaser.
I
Q.
don't know about a teaser, just because I feel like they've made the statement that this series is its own series. It does not leave questions left behind. But I was just gonna say, a bit big shocker that Martinez wants to see some more Ahsoka content.
Oh man.
Well, we got more content coming. Celebration shut off a lot of stuff. I don't know. You
Mm-hmm.
guys want to watch the Andor trailer?
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right, let's move into some of that. Okay, let's watch.
Hold on. So we just had this comment uh, about how Owen told Obi-Wan that he failed in his training for Anakin. Could that be part of the reason why Obi-Wan sent Luke to Yoda for training? Because he didn't believe in himself. Obviously, he was able to communicate with Luke still at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Just an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Never thought about that.
Yeah.
Okay,
That is interesting. But yeah, let's watch the trailer.
Okay, just 1 second while I get it up there for you guys. Okay.
I don't believe there's any sound on the YouTube side.
There should be.
You guys got sound chat?
Maybe
Uh,
not. Here, let me. Wait, Nate. Wait, no.
we're working on it, chat. We're new at this still.
Okay, that should be good. I'm not entirely sure why it's not playing audio.
Hmm.
Let's see. Everything seems set right, so I don't know why it's not playing. But anyway, this trailer is fantastic.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely, if you guys haven't seen it, you definitely need to check it out. And I imagine if you're listening to our podcast, you've probably already seen it like 10 times, like we all have. I think, just jumping right into it, I love the feel of it. I love like the atmosphere of this show. I am so excited. It's like seedy, it's earthy. I love even the beginning, like hitting that gong. It actually was giving me like kind of like flashbacks to the Eclipse trailer for that game coming out, where they're hitting those. Like, oh man, like I love the very beginning of it. And so like I was super excited, like it drew me in right away, but it had like a darker theme, you know, through it, and kind of feel through it. And I love that, because it's kind of like it's like mystery, it's spy, it's danger, it's not hope, you know, at that moment, you know. And I feel like throughout the show it's going to turn from despair to hope. And like, so I love the feel immediately from it. And I was kind of telling you guys all, but from tying it into the celebration, they asked Diego Luna how he would describe it in 3 words. You know, that's what they're doing with a lot of the different cast members, right? And Diego Luna said thriller, adventure, darkness. And like I felt all of that from that trailer. And so I think he's spot on when he described how that show is going to be from how it felt.
Yeah, I definitely got that, the dark feel. And the one thing I noticed, Deanna Lega, wow, I butchered that, but he said that it's not the same person. It's not the same Cassian that you meet in Rogue One, and we're going to find out how he became that person. And that just seems real interesting, because his character definitely has some growth. He says he's been in this fight since he's 6 years old.
Yeah.
And that is just one of those things that he's been in that fight, and he's been fighting the Empire, and you can get the gritty, the more harder of, you're gonna see more of why the Empire is as bad as they are, why the things that they did to the lower class people, kind of like what we were just talking about, Leia's cousin. You don't have to have manners to lower life forms, and the Empire treats everyone as a lower life form.
Yeah.
And so it feels like you're gonna get to see that. And I kind of like Seth brought out, like a primal, like a war movie. And yeah, it does. It's definitely, and at the end they said it's a reckoning, and it's just chilling. And one thing that's really cool, I know they've said they've already done 12 episodes already, so it's gonna be a good one, I think, going forward, and it's gonna be a real fun one. Maybe not necessarily fun in that term, but yeah, definitely.
Rogue One is by far my favorite movie from the Disney era, and it definitely has that gritty, down to earth, you know, you're in the mud kind of feel to it, and I'm so excited for this show. I will say I'm probably more excited for Ahsoka, but this is definitely right there. This is one of the things I'm most excited for is Andor for sure.
And it's been like, it was one of the first ones that they announced, and it's been a really long time.
Yep. Yeah.
And so you keep hearing rumors, and I was, at some point I was a little worried that it might be one that gets cut, because you'd been hearing about it forever. And what it was like last year, they showed basically set trailer of like
a trailer, a behind the scenes trailer. Here's costumes and set pieces basically.
And so, but I'm so happy and glad that we have a actual date to go over to actually start getting into this show.
Yeah, definitely.
And there were some other great ones. There's a few other trailers. We got the Bad Batch trailer.
Yes.
Which
Gunji.
That was fun. That was
fun.
I always love that character in Clone Wars, especially even with the droid saying that how rare it is for a Wookiee to be a Jedi, and that's so
Yeah.
cool to see that he survived Order 66 and potentially fighting alongside the Bad Batch.
Yeah, and somebody brought this up like on the panel, and I can't remember if it was like the person doing an interview or something like that. But someone was like, as soon as I saw that, I knew who it was. And when they went to Disney World to like build their own lightsaber, and they have I'm spacing what it's called because you can pick like 4 different themes, right? And one of them is like it's like Wookiee theme. I'm spacing what it's called. Maybe somebody in the chat knows what it is, but
I think I know what you're talking about.
uh,
It's like forestry or something, or nature.
yeah, maybe nature. That might be what it is. But it totally is. You know, like from what we've seen, and when we saw the Wookiee building his own lightsaber, or whatever, like it was totally that. And I was like, oh man, that would be so awesome. You know, like I was just thinking personally, if I went, you know, because I'm like, okay, me and my son are definitely doing it, so we're gonna pick 2 different ones, you know. And I was like, oh man, I got to do that one because it'd be so awesome to have one like that, you know, like with the bones and like tooth and wood, you know, like it's just such a unique thing, you know, and especially like, you know, to like Wookiees. So yeah, that was super exciting. And then I think another thing that I really liked, and I tweeted out about this as well, but Omega, she
Omega.
said she said one that she calls herself Omega, and that's her name. So for one, like if we want to do, you can battle all you want, but it's her name, and she says her name is Omega. So there's that for one. But 2, that she said throughout like the first season, she's like, can I get some armor or something? Can I get out of these pajamas? And like it's funny because I saw so many people talk about that, and I love that. She finally has some armor, and she finally looks like a force to be reckoned with in this season. And you know, Michelle Ang was even saying we're gonna see more growth from her. And so I'm super excited to see her being like, you know, not so much of like, oh, we have to protect her, but maybe she's going to be the one doing the protecting, you know, at some point doing the saving.
I mean, she
and
has
obviously
the
more growth.
DNA of Jango Fett, you know, same DNA that Boba Fett has. So, Seth just put it up. I literally pulled the page up to answer it, but then he started talking about Seth. Seth got her answer there: peace and justice, power and control, protection and defense, and elemental nature.
Yes,
But
elemental nature.
Gunji's lightsaber is one of my favorite lightsaber designs. You see him building that in the Clone Wars with the wood from the trees of Kashyyyk. So cool.
Yes, I love it.
It fits.
That is
I
one
feel
of
like
the
it fits
best
a Wookiee
episodes.
Jedi so perfectly.
That is definitely one of the best Clone War episodes. Is the Ilum and the building your lightsaber and the knowledge. It's just so cool.
And then to get to play that in Jedi Fallen Order, spoilers, but it's so. I mean, they even had the big crystal that melts the door, just like in the show. Like it was just perfect. It was so well done.
I was actually, when I saw this trailer, I was more excited for it than I necessarily thought, because I watched Star Wars and I think, well, Star Wars is live action, but all the cartoons is great, and then I saw this and I'm like, man, I actually have missed some of the cartoon stuffs, especially this show, and because it just has the right tone as well. And
yeah, the Bad Batch, the trailer makes it look so good.
So
I'm
good.
so excited for it. I'm excited for everything Star Wars, if you couldn't tell.
I think we all are.
A trailer for this show. Oh yeah, this is the show I'm really excited for. You know,
this is the one I want.
Andor. It's right up there in the top. You know, 3. Oh wait, everything's up there in the top. Everything.
Oh, I just love where we're at in Star Wars too, because so we're gonna get through June for Obi-Wan. So most of the way through June, we'll get new episodes of Obi-Wan. I don't think there's anything planned until Andor, which is end of August, but that's only a month and a half. And so we get all the Marvel shows in between there as well. So the Marvel shows tend to hold me over for until new episodes of Star Wars. So, but we're at the time where these shows are coming out. So you're gonna have Andor
Did
on
we
August
did we
31.
get did we get a date for Bad Batch?
It doesn't. I don't think it has an
It's-
actual date.
it's-
It says
It just says fall release.
Fall, yeah.
So I'm thinking. I'm
So-
thinking.
but it is
back,
coming this year.
I'm thinking back to school.
September.
Probably a little later, more like October, because it'll probably be after Andor.
Right after the Andor.
Mhm.
So
How great that's going to be. 12 episodes of Andor and then just straight into the Bad Batch.
they've said that they've
Mhm.
done 12 episodes. I don't know that we're getting 12 episodes.
Well, how many did we get of the Bad Batch last season? Wasn't it 16
Something like
last
that.
season?
But you usually get more episodes when of the cartoon
But
stuff
if we get
than you do live action series.
if you get that much of the Bad Batch and then Mandalore in early 23, right?
I think it said
Spring
February.
of 23.
February 20.
February.
Yeah.
So that could be, almost from Andor through Mando, almost constantly new Star Wars every week
Yeah.
for 4 or 5 months.
And I feel like
And then-
I'd be okay with that.
go ahead, Josiah. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and then we also had Visions too, which is spring of next year as well. So
Yeah.
then we're gonna get all
Mhm.
those, some more Star Wars.
Yeah, and it kind of like to Seth's point, he just mentioned about that big gap we had in 2003, especially or 2000 after 2005 in episode 3, especially because at first a lot of hardcore Star Wars fans didn't consider the Clone Wars worth anything to even be watched. If you were a hardcore Star Wars fan, you were like looked down upon if you watched those almost.
Yeah.
Especially the first movie, and now we judge like, oh, but have you watched the cartoons? Oh, if you haven't watched the cartoons, then you're not hardcore.
Or, I mean, now, like, if you haven't watched them, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
You know, like,
Yeah.
if you haven't watched them, you don't know these characters.
and I think
You know,
that-
like, you miss so much by not like watching the cartoons. If you watch all these shows, you're not going to be like, oh my goodness, it's so and so, like, oh, it's this character, like, I can't believe it, they're actually in here. You know, like, you miss all of those moments if you didn't watch the cartoons, and I personally love it.
yeah, I agree.
Anybody else hoping for a recap like we got on the Obi-Wan show for Ahsoka, where it's just bits from the Clone Wars and Rebels?
Oh man,
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's people who are going to want to watch that show that haven't seen those cartoons,
Yeah.
even though I mean they're so important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean they're great. Yeah, like Seth said, the Clone Wars was all we had.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
I was young enough at the time when the Clone Wars started to come out that I was only in 8th grade, so I don't know how old that is. So I would have been like 13. I
13,
guess it's still
14,
young enough
yeah.
to watch cartoons. So
we watched
I don't
it.
know.
We watched it because it was Star Wars.
Yeah.
I know-
Yeah. For sure. I wasn't.
I know.
Honestly, I was
at-
still watching
in my
cartoons then,
phase.
but
I was in my phase where I pretty much didn't watch cartoons anymore, but I watched it, the Clone Wars, because it was Star Wars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and even if there's not like necessary things to the storyline, there's Easter eggs that just make it so enjoyable.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the stuff that you don't catch if you don't recognize the characters as much. So
Yeah.
and so these they add so much, and I think the reason why they add so much too is just going back to Dave Filoni, because Dave Filoni knows and understands what George was telling him and what George was telling in these stories more than
Yeah.
probably anyone, and so he has the ability to kind of feed those moments into these shows, and that's why it makes them so good.
Mm-hmm.
So Seth mentioned that animated series is essential viewing at this point. And also the fact is I can see why people didn't like the Clone Wars at first, because the animation wasn't great when it first started. But anymore, Rebels, especially the Bad Batch, Clone Wars Season 7
I'll say Season 7 and the Bad Batch, that animation
Yeah.
was on point.
Yeah.
It's
Season 7
When you
was
start
so
Season
amazing.
7 and Anakin's like all, strutting out across the bridge, and that was, it looks so good.
I never knew this. I just recently found this out. But do you know why in the Clone Wars, especially the early episodes, why all the Jedi basically wear armor instead of more traditional robes?
Mm-mm.
It's much easier to animate.
Oh.
It's much easier to animate a piece that doesn't move when they move their arms, and it just, or because then you'd have to worry about the flapping of the Jedi robes in the back, and it's just more stuff and more time and more money to animate.
That makes sense.
Or
Yeah.
it's because of emotion that Palpatine passed early on in the Clone Wars to basically militarize the Jedi and officially make them the leaders of the army. And Obi-Wan wanted more protection, and they talk about that in Brotherhood, the book. And I thought it was interesting you brought that topic up because it was easy to animate, and then there's actually a whole storyline behind why they are wearing armor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I love when Star Wars does that too. Like something happens, like maybe it was like technologically they couldn't do something, or maybe even there was a mistake or a glitch, or they couldn't go to this like set to record XYZ, and then later like they make a canon reason for it.
Yeah.
Like I love when they do that.
Yeah, they say we had to do this for budgetary reasons, but then they come up like quitting this whole thing of Palpatine making them this, and so they make it canon of a reason why this happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, like Seth mentioned, it's the spirit of getting around the limitations of the technology, and
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things. It's just cool to know, and so that was so fun. So another thing we got in from Celebration was Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
That looks really exciting. I loved the first Fallen Order. The game, we just kind of talked about it, but the game does certain moments, especially from the Clone Wars, that it feels right.
Yeah.
And it's almost cool to experience. Like, oh, I saw this episode where they get their lightsabers and everything, and so that moment is so good, and the writing of that, plus it's being done by Respawn, which is still EA, but it's EA's best developer at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a good one, and it kind of goes back to our point. Is that the Grand Inquisitor in that trailer?
Mm-hmm.
I think it is.
I think it is too. And I think another kind of a side point, just since we were talking about the first one, is I love the connection of Obi-Wan in that kind of situation with Reva, right? And then Cal at the beginning when he's with like his, what is it, like his boss, I guess, like kind of like the loading junk boss or whatever. And it's very similar, right? Where he's like doing his best to like to hide, right? And like there's finally that moment he's like, I can't do it anymore. It's like what they said, if you're patient enough, the Jedi will reveal themselves to you, because they will not allow like injustice. They just can't allow someone who is innocent to be injured or harmed in any way. And so like I love that scene, and like that cut scene at the beginning of Fallen Order, because it actually really ties in well also with Obi-Wan in the same thoughts and feelings.
So Seth asked, who's in the tank? I think, because I thought this was a good point. because when I watched this, my first reaction was, are they really showing us a trailer with the Grand Inquisitor in it when they just released an episode the day before that showed potentially him getting killed, and people are going to be like, what's going on here? But I like that point. What if, that's him in the back to tank, and because of his injuries from Obi-Wan, or from the show, I mean, from Riva.
Yeah.
And it looks great. And one of the things I know with games is the hardest thing is getting the lightsaber combat right. And I see all the memes of, lightsabers in the movies versus lightsabers in games. And I get it, but if you could just cut everyone in half in the game, how fun would that be? Or just, I don't know, just didn't seem like it would play right. Especially when you need some kind of progression system. And I like how a lot of Star Wars games, especially, they need to start out with a character that's either broken from the Force or like Knights of the Republic 2, the Sith Lords, they were exiled and cut off from the Force. And so you have these moments because you can't start off strong in a video game.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the hard things. I will be interested to see if they kind of try to incorporate some of the things, or if they could do something like the Mass Effect games did, where you could import your save from the first Jedi Fallen Order, so you could have the way you chose to sort out his powers, and that you can kind of advance from there. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. Have you guys read much about what other people who other people think it is?
Not really. No,
I haven't.
I've been real busy this weekend. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch nearly as much as I wanted to. I watched all the highlights. I kind of skimmed through them, but I didn't get to watch nearly as much as I wanted to. So who do they think it is?
Yeah, I can't find. I was trying to find it right now. I can't find it, but and you guys will like this one because we've talked about him recently and we've talked about him on the show. But for some reason, people are saying possibly Quinlan Voss. And I actually kind of do like this because if you watch him in the back to tank, that is like a pretty boy. That is one good looking man floating around in that back to tank. And in the book, what's it called? Dark
Disciple.
Dark Disciple.
Yeah, Dark Disciple. He's the pretty boy, right? And so I was like, it could be. And so people are saying that Jedi Survivor isn't talking about Cal; it's talking about another Jedi.
This person in the back to tank,
right? And so I was like, oh man, if it is, that would be awesome to pull.
I mean, yeah,
to pull him.
For a while, people have thought that this could be in each game would be about somebody different, right? And then this trailer kind of makes you think, oh, it's going to be about Cal again. But what if it's not? What if he's a part of the story, but the game's not about him?
Yeah, I could see that. I would be okay with that too.
I think that'd be cool.
And I think the connection there is that Cal has that same Force ability that Quinlan Voss has.
Yeah,
being able to touch an object and seeing it's what it's been through its history.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's true.
Man. I'll be honest. When I first watched the Obi-Wan show, I thought Haja. I thought maybe at first it was Quinlan, because I was like, he's a little goofy, kind of like Quinlan would be. He makes jokes and stuff. I thought, oh, he almost fits exactly his character type too. So I for sure thought, but that was before I realized that he was just a fake Jedi.
Yeah.
But I at first definitely thought, oh, maybe that could be Quinlan. But I could definitely see him in Jedi Survivor. I know that rumor's been there a long time. And he'd be an
So I don't
interesting
think,
one because he's
and
a
I don't think
Jedi,
he
but
has
he's goofy.
he doesn't have a canon death at this point.
Yeah.
He's mentioned for like a second in Revenge of the Sith, but we never see him, and
Yeah.
you never see his death, so it's possible.
That
Makes me
would be-
really sad that why did they have to show Plo Koon dying? You know,
That's okay.
he could have
Filoni
been a
keeps
Jedi
bringing him back
survivor.
somehow. If you watch, if you watch John and Dave on their little panel, or not the panel, but just their meet and greet on the Star
Interview.
Wars stage, and they talking about how Dave always wants to bring Plo Koon back. And
Yeah.
it's so great.
Yeah, I like what Seth said too. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. And I mean, if they brought somebody that kind of maybe they shared experiences with, and like you said, like if it's somebody who turned Inquisitor, then it might be more interesting because it's going to play on his feelings a little bit, and maybe both sides. Then there might be like a little bit of deception on whoever this new one is of what their real intentions are. That could definitely be interesting if they're fellow Padawans.
Yeah, kind
I
of.
also
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Q.
I'm not sure who I was watching who brought up this idea that it could have potentially been like a Jedi Master, maybe even, who was injured before Order 66 and put in this bacta tank, and then when all the Jedi who knew he was healing in this tank died, nobody came to get him out, and he could be just like in this meditation and surviving off the Force and the bacta keeping him alive and not being able to like regain consciousness or something, having some kind of situation there because of his injury possibly, and needing a fellow Jedi to come help him. Because the term survivor makes me think surviving Order 66, right? So it could be any number of Jedi at that point, and it definitely even that line could even work for Quinlan.
Yeah,
which would be cool.
I definitely do like the connection there because they have the same Force ability to touch and kind of feel its history, and that's an interesting Force power.
Yeah,
that really
it's definitely unique.
That would be cool if you can get some connection there, and they've been doing that so well recently with that stuff, connecting all the little things that you just don't necessarily think about. Yeah, so it just kind of mirrors. Is there anything else you wanted to point out, Josiah, about? I think you got to watch probably more than the rest of us.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned it earlier, so just kind of briefly, I was a big fan of Star Wars Visions. I was probably more excited than even the average like Star Wars fan because it's like an art style that I'm interested in, that I find like really cool. So I was super excited. I loved almost all of them. There's a few of them that weren't necessarily my taste or style. But I think that's what it's all about. They basically, gave these artists and, these different people like free reign to give your version of Star Wars. And so obviously not every single one you're gonna, feel, super connected with, or that you think it's like the greatest ever. But I really loved so many of them. And one question that I had from the very beginning is, will there ever be a second episode? Because some of them could have totally, or not a second season, a second episode. So
of individual ones.
Because some of them are so good. They could be their own show, and like I was so excited to just deep down, I knew it because of the way that they did it. They were kind of making it seem like one-offs, but like deep down I was like, man, I would love if they gave some of these a continuation. And they basically kind of confirmed that is not the case. So that was kind of sad to kind of hear that they're basically. But on the other hand, which is kind of cool, they said that they're going. I think they named off like 8 different countries that they're going to, and people in those specific countries are going to give their version of Star Wars. So I'm definitely interested to see what everybody's going to come up with. I think that's going to be some more fun ones. One that I think will be really interesting is I think they said Venezuela, if I remember right. It was a South American country, and I was like, man, that would be interesting to kind of see that, because these were really like Asian themed ones for Visions, like Volume 1. So
I mean,
it would be kind of,
yeah.
yeah. So it'd be kind of interesting to see, like, I mean, it's basically, like a Latin
Different
feel.
cultures.
A Latin take on it, yeah. And they did a couple other ones that are like they're going to go to places like in Europe too as well. So yeah, I'm excited to see where that goes, and we're going to get it pretty soon. And it sounds like this one's pretty much wrapping up, like it's done, and it sounds like they're going to keep going. So there's going to be a Volume 3 from what it sounds like. So that's cool too. Just more Star Wars is good Star Wars. So I'm excited for that.
I liked a few of them. I'm not the hugest anime fan, and there was a couple that I liked, and I would be interested to see more. But I also kind of like how they can take Star Wars and have this little area, and they can basically go, well, this is not canon,
Yeah.
so you can kind of go crazy,
Do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was kind of interesting. It's an interesting take. So that one looks fun. Anything else that you guys want to talk about? I know there was we got the Tales of the Jedi. That's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
More stuff from Dave, always good.
And more stuff about Ahsoka. And we've already talked about this, but I think the other kind of really cool thing about this is, we've all talked about it. Dave's talked about it. Like, the cool thing about Ahsoka is we almost have her whole life. And now with like the live action show, we're going to get a continuation of that. And then now with this, we're going to have her like from a baby. Like, we are legitimately going to get like her whole life. And I am here for it. So
I agree. I almost feel sorry for her though, that her life is that eventful. It's like she never has a moment where in her life that she can kind of just relax and sit back.
Yeah.
She's always got to be in the fight.
Mm-hmm. I did like some of the reveals for the Ahsoka show, some of the characters that were announced to be on the show.
Yeah.
And it does kind of feel like it's just going to be live action Rebels with
sequel.
A slight focus on Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Dave's baby, and I'm so happy that he's getting to explore.
Yeah, because I think he's directing every episode, the whole thing. Yeah, it's
his show.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
It's his baby.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also like from the Tales of the Jedi. I think you're gonna get more Qui-Gon Jinn.
Mm-hmm.
I think I thought I even saw somewhere, or maybe it was a different show, but something more about Dooku as well.
Oh.
Ooh, I'm always down for more
remember.
Jedi Dooku.
Yeah,
I think it was Jedi Dooku, and I think in this article I'm reading,
I'm totally planning on re-listening to that book.
It's not listing it, but I was pretty sure there was something about Dooku in there as well. And yeah, you mentioned the reveal of Sabine Wren, and she's got cast. I hope to see Hera as well. I mean, we already see Chopper there, so I don't think Chopper really goes anywhere without Hera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's just going to be so exciting.
Yeah, and Michael just said in the chat, that was the other person I read, is that they think possibly in the Bacta tank could also be Starkiller.
Ooh. So
that would be a crazy twist.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That would be, that's real. I've never thought about that, because I know Disney's always tried to like push all that stuff away, but
Mm-hmm.
those two games were one of the last things to come out by Lucasfilm before they were sold.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then we could really, once again, when like we were talking about, we could toe that line, with good and evil, like the choice. So.
Oh yeah, you give the choice in there.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like we talked about last week about the Revenge of the Sith moment where Anakin chooses to uh, kill Mace Windu, basically. But there's so many, there's so many good times in video games where you get that choice.
What if it was Dexter in the back to tank?
I think he's a little skinny
I
for
don't. Yeah, I'm still
Oh,
hoping we get the appearance in the Obi-Wan show. That'd be great,
that would be awesome. I would love that. Yeah.
even if it's just something small.
Mm-hmm. He needs his help for something, some unique
Yeah.
piece of information that he needs or something. Yeah.
That would be fantastic. And yeah, like Quentin said, I think the Ahsoka show is just a Rebels sequel.
Yeah. And then what we didn't get to see, because they blacked it out, is any Mandalorian footage. So they showed the people there
Yeah.
Mandalorian footage, but we couldn't see it. Like they blacked out the screens when you're watching live. So I was like, oh man.
That's how it was the first celebration when they before the show first came out, and I
Mhm.
remember seeing like cell phone footage of what they showed, and that was so amazing.
Yeah. And so I can't remember. I read somewhere somebody was saying, so obviously we get like some glimpses of Grogu again, and then Bo-Katan as well. So yeah, I mean, obviously we know that Bo-Katan's gonna, be in there moving forward.
They've already announced
So.
that Katie Sackhoff is
Mhm.
back for season 3. That's going to
Yeah.
be really interesting. She even had her own.
And we know in Boba Fett that Grogu chose Mando.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another announcement from the celebration thing I want so bad is the Lego BD1.
Oh,
that is an
yes.
absolute must buy for me.
Uh-huh. Did you guys get to watch that little video clip when they showed it off?
No, I didn't even know that was the thing. I need to
Yeah,
find that.
so it was that, and I think it was a ship from Andor, I believe.
Okay.
Like a minifig. So it's not like a full build. So it was that. But anyways, when they showed the BD1, I was like freaking out. I had heard like rumors about it, so I kind of knew. But like seeing it and like how big it was, like in comparison to like people holding it and knowing it's like an over 1,000-piece build,
Yeah.
I was like super legit. And then one of the guys involved with building it, he said that they wanted to make it as perfect to the game as possible. And so we talked about this earlier, but he has like an actual slidable like compartment for the stems, for the health stems. And I was like, oh my goodness, cool. Like that's awesome.
BD1 from Jedi Fallen Order is probably, sorry BB-8, but I'd rather have BD1.
Oh yeah, like that's not even a question.
Like, he is definitely one of the coolest things that's come out of, especially new droids.
I love Star Wars' ability to make these robots into lovable characters, and they have their own personalities and attitude. Like Chopper is fantastic, but he's also kind of a psychopath. Whereas BD1 is always just helpful and cute and just an awesome companion. Like and in all reality, the size of BD1, how could you not like want that to be real, right?
Yes.
A little robot that sits on your back and you're like a backpack and helps you whenever you need it. That would be so awesome.
And when he's excited. I love when he's excited.
His little dance. That was one of my favorite cameos in Book of Boba Fett when you saw a little BD droid pop out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of my take on it. Is I want this Lego set, but I almost want to customize it. You know, kind of make it my own little BD robot, right? I think that'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be something to be able to get your own and be like, oh, this is my little companion.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you know that they're gonna have a Lola Lego figure soon, so
That's awesome. Yeah,
that's gonna be cool.
I want
I
one of
also
those
love
in
the
real life.
little the Darth Vader sandcastle.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Darth Vader at the beach.
And he gets like a tank top on.
Yeah,
Oh, and he has like a
a shovel and flip flop, or not?
yeah, like what are they called?
Like fins when you're swimming.
Yeah, fins. Yeah, he has like fins on.
That's awesome.
And he builds his Mustafar castle, but it's like a sand castle.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, I love the memes. There was a part in the Brotherhood book where he talks about sand, and it's kind of funny. He's like, but if anyone, no, it does get everywhere, and it's all in because he's like it's in his shoes and stuff.
He talks about how the sand, I think I can't remember where planet they're on, but the sand was in Anakin's robotic arm and like not making it function properly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it was.
That's funny that they kept talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Chat. Anything else you guys wanted to talk about from Celebration? Oh, Kalani loved Chopper. Everyone loves Chopper.
He's such a sassy little droid.
Do you know who voices Chopper?
Isn't it? I feel like I know this. You're gonna say it, and I'm
Yeah.
oh yeah, I knew that.
It's Dave.
Who is it? Yeah, that's what I wanted to guess that, but I'm like,
yeah, it's Dave Filoni that voices Chopper. It's pretty great.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the only thing, like, I mean, if you're a Star Wars fan and you weren't able to, kind of follow along live with that event, I know Seth in the chat was able to go to a Celebration live, so he knows what it's all about. But for us that couldn't be there live, I mean, watching it live was just such a cool experience. You get all those excitements and stuff like that. But I love now in the age of technology, you can go back and watch all of these interviews, and they're just so amazing. It's so awesome to, see all these actors, how much they love Star Wars, how much they love their character, and just, talk about Star Wars. I definitely recommend anybody like who hasn't watched all these, like, go back and watch all of these different interviews with the actors. It was so good. One that there's a couple that really stood out to me. One was Ashley Eckstein. Like, that one's it was so good because obviously everybody knows I just love Ahsoka. So it's so good to hear her. I could just close my eyes and hear her. And like, I was like, that is Ahsoka. And I just love it. I love the person she is. She's so inspiring just as a person wanting to help people, just like she is as the character Ahsoka. And then the other one that I thought was really good was Carrie Fisher's daughter and Kelly Tran.
Billy Lord. And Kelly Marie Tran.
Yep, and Kelly Marie Tran. They both were up there, and it was so cool to see their passion for Star Wars. Obviously, one of them like grew up, from like a baby into Star Wars and into these celebrations. She, obviously is like Star Wars, but also like seeing her friendship with like Kelly Tran and stuff like that. And like, it was very clear the chemistry that they had. And so, yeah, I loved that one because it was just so upbuilding, like made my heart happy to see them and, to see, like a little Carrie Fisher basically up there. It's so awesome to see like her legacy continue and, her love of Star Wars continue. And us as fans, we all get to obviously benefit from all of her legacy with Star Wars.
Yeah, the one panel I really liked, they did the 20th anniversary of the Attack of the Clones. Just
Mm-hmm.
Tamora Morrison is amazing. He's so
He is.
hilarious.
He's so
And
good.
I mean, they started chanting at him like a bantha, and so he did the whole like a bantha thing, and it's funny and yeah that and Daniel Logan, yeah, so good. They play off each other so well.
And I love that he said that wasn't even scripted.
Yeah.
That he said he made that up. I love that.
But yeah, his relationship with Daniel Logan and stuff, that's a must-watch one because they play off so well together, and it was pretty funny and fun to get to kind of see that.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously, Ian McDiarmid was fantastic.
Oh yes, that was so good.
Yeah,
I love so did you? I don't know if you watched that one too, Q, but I love so they were asking him some question about how did like this scene come about, or did you decide that, who decided that, whatever, and that he was so this is just going on like a normal interview, and he said that George Lucas like came over to him and he was like, do it. And I love it. He did it in the voice and everything. I was like dying laughing because I just wasn't expecting it, this sweet old man. And then all of a sudden he was Sidious out of nowhere. That was amazing.
yeah.
One thing Kalani brought up in the chat was the interview with Hayden and Ewan and how much the fans embraced Hayden, because I know he took a lot of hate for his acting in the prequels, and he's finally getting the love that he deserves for that role.
Yes,
yeah,
very much.
That's true.
And I love the effort that he put into Anakin with watching the Clone Wars and Rebels, and I thought that was really great on his part to really get into the character's mind.
Well, and he remembers so many,
Yeah.
and he knows the memes too. I love when he finished that interview and he's like, "And this is where the fun begins."
Yeah, I
like,
love
oh,
that.
God.
That was so amazing.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and
one part I wanted to
Okay.
bring out about the 20th anniversary panel is in the end they had Hayden and Ewan join the panel, and Ashley Eckstein was hosting the panel.
yeah,
She was the host. So they sat down and she goes, "Hey there, Sky Guy." And I was like, "Oh, it's so great."
uh-huh. Yeah, I love that part too. Yeah, I was just gonna mention like what Seth was talking about. Like one, he said that he got to meet Ashley, and he said genuinely probably the single nicest one I've ever met. And like you could just tell. I mean, sometimes you just never know, and then you see them on screen and you're like, oh, they seem like a nice person. Later you find out they're like jerks and they don't tip or whatever, like random things. But it's like you can just tell by her voice how emotional she gets about caring about people. Like she is just so genuine,
the work she's done, and
yes,
and her company too. I mean, her universe. It's so great. She's a great ambassador for Star Wars.
Yeah, and then I don't know if you guys saw this, but did you see when he was singing?
I didn't.
Oh
I didn't
man,
get
you
to
guys,
see that one. I do need to.
you guys gotta watch
that.
That. Yeah, that was pretty hilarious. Like when he first started, I was like, "Is he doing this?" And like he did it for a while too. Like he was just walking around singing. Everybody, he was like getting the whole crowd like singing with him and everything. Oh man, that was awesome.
He's a treasure, and I hope we continue to see more of him. Luckily, George made him the face of like billions of people.
Yeah.
So you can keep seeing him even if he doesn't have to play the same character.
Yep.
Seth said she brought donuts to everyone in line for one of her panels. Yeah, see, she's just the best. Man.
She is. That's definitely someone I would love to meet at some point. And it was kind of funny as I was watching this celebration over the past few days. I just kept on telling like my wife Lily, I was like, we are doing this. Like, I don't know when or how, but like I will be at one of these things because like, oh man, like it's just anybody who like really loves Star Wars like would enjoy this experience. But someone like us who like live Star Wars, like, I mean, it is just something you have to do at least once in your life to be able to be in that environment, see things for the first time with your own eyes, touch all of these different set pieces, getting to meet all of like these actors and stuff that you look up to and have loved, who have like, legitimately changed your life in different ways, whether it was like the lessons you learned from them or things you took from like a specific show. Like, yeah, I'm doing it. One of these days I'm doing it. Maybe all three of us. Maybe we're just going. We're going to go to one.
That would be great. I would love that. I would really like to go sometime. I've never gotten to go to this, and yeah, it's one of the coolest things. And I just thought of this. I don't know why, but I know the Mandalorian panel. I think I saw someone mentioning that or something that we're gonna get more Carson Teva, and I just was like, yes, I want to see more of him. I want to see. I love Paul Sung Lee. He's amazing. I want to see him more in Star Wars, and he's a great one because he's such a nerd as well. If you guys want to check him out, he's on YouTube. I think it's Bittersweet Asian Dude is his channel, and he streams on Sundays, and most of it is just him unboxing his nerdy stuff, his Star Wars figures and stuff, and it's pretty great. He's funny. If you've ever watched Kim's Convenience, he's really funny, and yeah, I want to see more of him in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to add? We've been going for 2+ hours now. That's a good one.
Yeah.
There was so much to talk about, just from a new show, and then there's always new stuff to talk about when Celebration comes. And it's one of the best times a year for a Star Wars fan. Well, I think we can kind of start winding down. Is there any comments that we missed? Seth says it's a pilgrimage everyone should make at least once. That's great. I also need to go to Galaxy's Edge. I'd like to get there sometime too.
I have to do that.
It's just been rough the last couple years. Everyone knows what's been going on. So, but yeah, that's definitely one of those ones that I want to get to as well.
Yeah, it'd be such an awesome thing. Like, if we could, all three of us, like, go to a celebration sometime, that'd be amazing. Seth said, I'll meet you there. Yeah, that would be so great, to be able to, meet some of our friends that we've never had an opportunity to meet in person too, like it'd be so cool.
Yeah. You look like you got something to add there, Quentin.
No, not really. I was just looking back at comments we might have missed, and there was the one about Dex needs to be the mostly Star Wars mascot.
Oh man, I missed that. Oh man, yeah, that would be amazing.
I think that fits us.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, he is supposed to be a man of knowledge, so it kind of actually does fit more than just the image.
Oh man, yeah, that's amazing.
And we've all fallen in love with him over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's just like especially the way he hugs Obi-Wan. Like he's like an old friend. Here, I know you, and plus I'm gonna bring you some food.
Right. Some juice.
Yeah. Cup of Jawa juice.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right, guys.
No,
well,
yeah. I think it was definitely a good one. We packed a lot into a short amount of time. I didn't think that we'd be able to cover as much as we did. We're going to continue to probably add in little celebration things and new releases over the next few weeks as we talk about the Obi-Wan episodes. But yeah, I think we got to cover a lot of the big things that we're all excited about.
yeah, for
Yep.
sure. All right. Well, if you guys please like and subscribe the video, and also we'll be posting, if you want to listen to it later on a podcast, I'll be posting that as soon as the show's over, or as soon as I can get it all put together and get it up there. And yeah, if you want to follow us all on Twitter, our handles are on the screen, and the direct links are in the description there. Also, check out our Discord server there, where we can chat and hang out, and you can ask us questions, and your questions might be answered on a later show. And yeah, you can also support us on Patreon there. And yeah. All right.
Yeah, I
Well,
think, and then just the last other thing to mention is we are still doing the giveaway for 100 subscribers here on
yes.
YouTube. We're at 84 right now, so we're getting really close to that. And it's going to be a digital code for any Star Wars game of your choice on whatever platform. So definitely get into that. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, not just for the content, but you could also win a game. So that's a big bonus. And then lastly, as always, thank everybody that came to the chat. Thanks Seth always for being with us. Kalani, Michael, and Togo was right at the beginning. So yeah, thanks everybody for jumping in, watching us live, joining the chat. We always love to hear your thoughts. So you definitely leave them in the comments here, any podcast, like Tyler mentioned in our Discord, any questions you have. Or if you guys ever want to jump on the show, definitely let us know. We can chat about it. We'd love to have you guys on the show. That's what it's all about. Everybody who loves Star Wars
is for everyone.
Exactly. So yeah, we'd love to chat with Star Wars about anybody. So
All right, guys. Well, may the Force be with you.
may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.